FFA. If we haven't met yet, my name is Anna and I'm a part of the Minnesota State Officer team. Thank you so much for joining us for our first segment of the Cultivate series. One of the things I take the most pride in is raising goats. It's a huge part of my life and I spend countless hours out in the barn with my animals. My family puts in time and energy to make decisions about breeding, nutrition, and showmanship so that way we can walk into the show ring with what we think are some of the best animals. But some days don't always go to plan. Some days I'll walk into that show ring and I'll think to myself, my goat looks good, I look good, and the judge makes a call that I don't agree with at all. And I'm not talking about the delusional belief that there's no animal that can beat mine, because let's face it, if that was true, there'd be no fun in competing. But I'm talking about when the judge makes a decision that I cannot at all understand. They're disagreeing with what my perspective is, and they're placing my animal below a standard I choose to avoid. If you've ever raised livestock, given a speech, competed in one-act theater, or done any other competition that requires a subjective evaluator, you know that the judge's opinion is based upon their perspective. We could choose to complain or make a scene, but that's disrespectful to our judge, to the people that placed them there that day, and to our fellow competitors who also worked hard to be there. It's called sportsmanship, but at its base, it's respect. And we can choose to develop it because we've been taught it our entire lives. We may not always agree. We may not always see eye to eye. We may not even be able to understand each other, but we can always act with respect. And because it's one of our core values, we need to work to develop it, even when it's difficult. As FFA members and leaders, we'd like to think that we're respectful most of the time. But how and when are we most respectful? It so happens that we're most respectful with those that look like us, think like us, and live like us. But in order to be virtuous with our respect, we need to take the time to understand the value of everyone around us and to take the time to train ourselves to be consistent in the respect that we show everybody all the time. And understanding without action is empty. Respect requires action. In FFA, our emblem is deeply symbolic, and each component has a deeper meaning. Throughout the Cultivate series, we're going to look at how the components of our emblem also remind us of these shared values when we come together as members of FFA. The cross-section of the ear of corn is known to represent unity because corn is grown in every state and territory where FFA is found. I'd suggest that this cross-section of an ear of corn also represents respect. Not only is respect essential for true unity, but this symbol is a foundation for the rest of the emblem.
Although I am mostly homeschooled, I am in some public school classes. In those classes, I do get picked on sometimes.
A time that I really felt disrespected was when I started varsity softball as a 10th grader before anybody else, and I was told that I didn't belong because other people could have played better than what I did, even though I played to my best ability.
The only time that I can really think of that I was disrespected was at work. So I work in customer service and we had recently changed our store hours, but they weren't yet updated online. So somebody had called the restaurant asking what our store hours were, so I told them what our new store hours were. And then they were complaining to me because they didn't match the online ones, and then they proceeded to yell at me and tell me that I should work there because I didn't know what was going on.
One time I was disrespected was after a basketball game a couple of years ago. We were in a really close game with this other team, and they were a little bit unsportsmanlike and rude to us the whole time. The game went into overtime, and we ended up winning by a couple points. The other team was really not happy about this, and they refused to shake hands with us after the game. This made us feel a little bit disappointed and really disrespected as a whole.
Something my team and I really committed ourselves to this year was understanding what respect is. It seems like a simple concept, something you learn in preschool about keeping your hands to yourself and not taking things from other people, and it can also seem like it's just having manners or being open-minded. But what we've realized is that respect looks like a lot of different things to different people, and if we don't take the time to understand what respect looks like to them, we can leave other people feeling offended or unvalued.
One action that shows me respect is when someone tries to say my last name, even if they pronounce it wrong, and they ask for help after.
I know that you respect me if you focus on my eyes in conversation.
The willingness to listen, that might not come out right away, but if I share something, are you trying to respond to me or are you trying to understand what I'm saying?
I know someone respects me when they take the time to form their first impression of me based off of our interactions instead of what they hear from someone else.
When I think about respect, I think about intention, and intention comes with the motivation and the desire to truly seek out what other people have to say and being intentional about being there in that moment with them in whatever situation that they may be going through.
To me, respect means being kind to others, especially when you don't agree with what they have to say.
Respect is when someone calls me out on my poor behavior or language because it shows me that they just want me to become a better person and change my language to become more inclusive.
I automatically feel respected when engaging in conversations with others, and they do things like maintain eye contact, body gestures, and then a big one for me is not being on devices when we are in that conversation. All those things combined just make me feel so seen and heard and respected.
We can show others respect by asking for their help or their advice, really leaning into and listening to their feedback, trusting that they might have different experiences, viewpoints, or wisdom than the rest of us.
So to me, being respectful is being one where you care about the person first, and their opinion and their take on things is a part of them. But even if you find areas of differences, you still work to find some commonalities, and you treat each person the way that you would like to be treated.
I know someone respects me not only by the way that they treat me, but of the way that they treat those who aren't there. If they speak ill of someone who isn't around, then I know that they probably don't respect me. But if they're open-minded to different ideas and cultures and speak kind words about others who aren't there, then I feel like they probably respect me as well.
For me, when I think about respect, I think about the nonverbal cues, messages, and signals that we are always sending with our body language, whether or not we even realize it. They're just little things that go a long way in respecting others and showing that we can command respect for ourselves as well.
That's a lot to unpack, but thank you to everyone who shared their stories. This further proves that our actions show others the value that they have in our lives. When we show respect, we can respect other people's voices, presence, and time. We can respect their strengths, and we can respect their differences. We can show respect when others are around, and we can maintain that respect after they're gone and can no longer see or hear. We can take intentional steps in our actions and our words to prove the value that others have in our lives, rather than centering in on our opinions, convenience, and awareness of differences. Next session, we'll dive deeper into this fundamental value. If you're watching this as a part of a class, ask your teacher for the corresponding resources. If you're a part of a cohort, watch for information from your leader in the coming week. And if you're not a part of a cohort and would like to be a part of one, please reach out to your teacher or the state officers. Thank you so much for joining us for this first session. As we leave today, think about this quote from Edmund Burke. Example is the school of mankind, and they will learn at no other. As a part of this masterclass of leadership, you are both the teacher and the student, so be a good one.